From the outside, your childhood looked perfect. You were the star, the one who could do no wrong, the child who made your parents beam with pride at every parent-teacher conference, every recital, every achievement carefully displayed on the mantle like trophies of their success. But here's what nobody saw: the weight of that pedestal, the terror of falling, the slow disappearance of whoever you might have been if you'd been allowed to simply exist instead of constantly proving your worth. This is the golden child syndrome. And if you were that child, you already know the truth. Being chosen doesn't feel like winning. It feels like being trapped in a role you never auditioned for, performing in a play that never ends, with a script written by someone else and a single, unforgiving rule: be perfect, or lose everything. Golden child syndrome refers to a family dynamic where one child is singled out as exceptional, held to unrealistic standards, and expected to embody perfection in every area of life. The golden child is regarded as the family's shining star, the one who will bring prestige, validate parental choices, and carry the weight of everyone's unfulfilled dreams. But this isn't about genuine recognition of a child's talents. It's about a child being used as a prop in their parents' psychological drama. And the cost of this role is devastatingly high. Here's how golden children are made. They're usually raised by narcissistic parents who see their child not as a separate human being, but as an extension of themselves. These parents live vicariously through their golden child and view the child as a vehicle for their own achievements and magnificence. When a parent exhibits narcissistic behavior, they favor one child over others, often using them to fulfill their own unmet needs and shore up their fragile self-image. The child becomes a mirror, reflecting back the perfection the parent desperately wants to see in themselves. This creates a toxic environment where love becomes conditional. The golden child receives praise, but they're acutely aware that this praise isn't unconditional or stable. It's currency. It must be earned, maintained, protected. Every achievement is celebrated not for the child's joy, but for how it makes the parent look. Every failure threatens not just disappointment, but the withdrawal of love itself. The child learns early that they are valuable only for what they produce, never for who they are. Their worth becomes inextricably tied to external validation and performance. In these families, there's often another role being played simultaneously: the scapegoat. While the golden child is elevated and praised, another sibling is blamed, criticized, and used as the family's emotional dumping ground. This split serves the narcissistic parent's need for control and creates a family system where children compete for scraps of conditional affection. The golden child watches what happens to the scapegoat and learns the lesson viscerally. Perfection is survival. Anything less means becoming the target. The psychological burden of being the golden child is immense and multifaceted. First, there's the perfectionism. The golden child develops an intense fear of failure because failure has been explicitly or implicitly connected to loss of love and status. They learn to be rule-following, relentlessly competitive, and studiousness becomes their defining trait. But this isn't healthy ambition. It's survival-driven compulsion. They can't turn it off because their nervous system has learned that anything less than exceptional performance equals danger. This leads to chronic anxiety. The golden child is constantly living under the expectation to excel in all areas, struggling with feelings of inadequacy even when they appear successful to everyone else. They're on a perpetual tightrope, balancing family expectations while trying to assert any semblance of their own identity. The pressure is crushing. Too much is expected of them, and as a result, they suffer from extreme burnout with no time or space to process it. But they can't show weakness. They can't ask for help. That would shatter the illusion of perfection. Perhaps the most devastating consequence is the identity crisis. The golden child's sense of self-worth is directly linked to their ability to please and their external achievements. They become extrinsically motivated rather than intrinsically motivated, losing touch with their own values and what truly matters to them. They often don't truly know what they want or like because they've been conditioned to do things for others to maintain their golden status. Who are they beneath the achievements? What do they actually enjoy when nobody's watching? These questions feel unanswerable because they never had the opportunity to develop an authentic self. Their entire identity was constructed around being what their parents needed them to be. The golden child also carries hidden resentment and shame. Beneath the perfect exterior, they're angry at the impossible standards, exhausted from the performance, and guilty for the privileges they received while their siblings suffered. They might recognize that their treatment was unfair, but they're trapped in the role. To question it would mean losing their special status, and their entire sense of safety is built on maintaining that position. When golden children grow into adults, the patterns don't disappear. They intensify and complicate. In relationships, they struggle profoundly. Some become people pleasers, who attach themselves to partners for external validation, desperately seeking the unconditional love they never received. Others become withdrawn and aloof, unable to be emotionally available because vulnerability was never safe. They either become too clingy because they strongly desire the love their parents failed to provide, or completely shut down to protect themselves from criticism and rejection. They have difficulty with intimacy because their childhood taught them that love must be earned through achievement. They don't know how to simply be with someone. They only know how to perform for someone. And when their partner offers genuine, unconditional acceptance, it feels foreign, suspicious, even dangerous. They wait for the other shoe to drop, for the moment when their worth will be measured and found wanting. Golden children as adults often experience imposter syndrome intensely. They feel like they're playing a part instead of living their life, convinced that everyone will eventually discover they're not as exceptional as they appeared. Despite external success, they feel fundamentally fraudulent. Additionally, because golden children are accustomed to only receiving positive feedback, they struggle to accept any form of negative feedback as adults. Constructive criticism feels like annihilation because their identity is so fragile and performance-based. Career burnout is common. The golden child carries the same relentless pressure into their professional life, working themselves into exhaustion to maintain an image of excellence. They can't delegate, can't say no, can't acknowledge limitations. Maintaining the idealized image expected by parents causes emotional exhaustion and a sense of inner emptiness that success never fills. They achieve and achieve and achieve, but nothing satisfies because the original wound, being loved conditionally, remains unhealed. Some golden children develop narcissistic tendencies themselves, having internalized the patterns they were raised in. The constant reinforcement of their superiority can lead to entitlement, difficulty empathizing with others, and challenges in forming healthy relationships. Others react by underachieving or self-sabotaging, unconsciously rebelling against the impossible standards by ensuring they can never succeed. This offers a sense of control over their identity and means never having to face whether they could have truly succeeded on their own terms. Breaking free from golden child syndrome begins with recognition. You must name what happened. You were not lucky. You were not simply talented. You were instrumentalized. Your childhood was not a gift. It was a burden disguised as privilege. The first step is acknowledging that the favoritism, the praise, the special treatment came at a devastating cost. The loss of your authentic self. Grief is essential. You must mourn the childhood you didn't have, the person you might have become if you'd been allowed to explore, fail, and discover yourself without the weight of parental expectations crushing every choice. This grief is real and valid, even if you appeared to have everything. Learn to be imperfect. This is perhaps the hardest task for golden children, because their entire identity has been built on perfection. You must practice making mistakes, disappointing people, being ordinary. You must discover that your worth doesn't evaporate when you fail. True happiness often lies in letting go of the need to have it all figured out, embracing vulnerability instead of flawlessness. Set boundaries with your parents, which may mean limiting contact or completely redefining the relationship. You are not responsible for their image, their happiness, or their unfulfilled dreams. You are not an extension of them. You are a separate person with your own life to live. This step often feels like betrayal, because the golden child was taught that their primary purpose is serving parental needs. But it's not betrayal. It's liberation. Build a genuine identity by asking yourself questions you've never been allowed to explore. What do you actually enjoy? What are your real values, not the ones you performed? What would you choose if no one was watching, judging, or keeping score? Therapy can help tremendously, particularly with a therapist who understands narcissistic family systems and complex trauma. Working with a counselor can help unpack your past experiences and support you in negotiating current interactions as you change your mindset and behavior. Cultivate self-compassion. You were a child handed an impossible task. You did nothing wrong. The expectations were unreasonable, the love was conditional, and none of that was your fault. Learn to speak to yourself the way you wish your parents had, with unconditional acceptance, with patience for your flaws, with celebration for your authentic self, rather than just your achievements. Being the golden child is not a blessing. It's a burden. But it doesn't have to be a life sentence. You can step off the pedestal. You can let the mask crack. You can discover who you are when you're not performing. And you might find that the real you, imperfect and ordinary and beautifully human, is more valuable than any trophy you were ever forced to become.